or what we heard or didn't hear. Um, we're in Guinea this week.
Okay.
All right. Proverb is from Guinea. In West Africa, of course, former French colony. Many would say still present French colony, but that's a discussion for another day. The proverb today is this: knowledge is like a garden. If it is not cultivated, it cannot be harvested.
Knowledge is like a garden. If it is not cultivated, it cannot be harvested. So we are saying ignorance is bliss. Well, there.
Short and sharp.
It's like a garden, and if you don't show intent to go in and cultivate, which means to do your research, to do. To me, when I hear things about knowledge, I'm like fake news, and perpetrators of fake news, and people who want to ask you to do for them research.
Yes.
If you don't cultivate it, then you'll not reap.
This is true.
Okay.
So, knowledge and understanding. Definitely. So you were asking what we heard.
Yeah, what did you hear over the weekend?
Let me tell you. So, there's a story here done by a good friend of mine, actually, who's a local correspondent for the New York Times, Abdi Latif Abdi, wrote a story about, of course, Kenyan workers who go abroad, in this case, the Gulf, and specifically Saudi Arabia, who then find themselves in a bit of a pickle. That they're mistreated, they're not paid right, and they're not paid on time. And even with the abuse, and this is not a new story. This is not a new story. This has been happening for the longest time. We've been raising it and bringing it up and saying there have to be better mechanisms through which people who leave Kenya to go to the Gulf to work then will operate within, whether it is the metrics for payment, whether it is how they're treated. There should be one standard agreement about how this is done. So, I mean, that notwithstanding, the thing that would have caused an issue is that, you know, the agencies that normally send these people to other countries, you go, you fill an application, you get it done, you go. That some of these agencies are now being linked in terms of ownership to the president and his daughter. And the people who travel are linked directly to these agencies. So some start to wonder why. And why we would have called you to have this conversation with us, to maybe explain to us, is that you are right in the center of the storm around jobs for Kenyans in other countries. And you came under some fire because of demanding for the right thing to be done. How is it possible that jobs being created for Kenyans also being mistreated, sometimes Kenyans showing up in a box under regulation that's required for certain things to happen, and then we hear that some of these agencies belong to the president? I mean, it just seems like conflict of interest hitting us in the face.
So now let me shock you.
Okay, here we go.
Let me shock you. First off, Abdi from New York Times. I got a phone call from Abdi of New York Times. Early May. And he tried to have a sit down with me early May, eventually mid-May, somewhere around that time.
This year?
Yeah, this year. I told him, I'm busy. I have so many things happening between committee meetings and whatever. So I told him, why don't you come to Parliament? And we can have lunch at the Parliament dining hall. And then I can, talk to you about whatever it is that you want to hear from me, which was about the labor export. Because by that time, there was a lot of news. We had started the Senate inquiry that I had pushed for at the Labor Committee, the Senate Labor Committee. So Abdi came. We were sitting by the garden at the Parliament, spot there at the garden. And I picked my lunch, and there were two other senators who joined me much later. And we started talking. It was a very laid-back conversation. He was literally just asking me, so what's going on? We've been following, the whistleblowing that you've done on these fake diaspora jobs and what's really happening and, the scam that it is. And it was a casual conversation. And then the treasurer for UDA, Japheth Nyakundi, walks by the table, and then he says, former nominated senator, So by this time, I've not been
Yeah,
removed.
not yet, yeah.
We've not done anything. I'm sitting. And by banter, I tell him, yes, good afternoon, one term member of parliament. And then he says, this is your last lunch in this garden. You're going home. We're going to remove you.
Okay.
Yeah, continue doing those things. Those things that you're doing.
Even this lunch
them.
that you're having here.
So, you know me, in hindsight now, when I reflect, is when I'm like, oh,
And this is in presence of Abdi.
at that
and
time,
the two
in
senators.
presence of Abdi. In fact, Abdi then looked at me like,
What have I got
what's
myself
going
into
on?
here? Yeah.
And then he said, are they serious? They're going to remove you? I said, I don't know. But with these people, you can never tell.
Right.
But he said it. So he knew who I was talking to. And he knew that I was actually serious about this inquiry because I knew that a lot of things were happening and I hadn't even scratched the surface of it. So later I came to find out. So obviously when the article came out, I called Abdi and I was like, what? And he said, yeah, Gloria, I was sitting with you when this member of parliament came and said, this is your last lunch in parliament. So,
Was it actually your last lunch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, we laughed
Just
about
checking.
it and everything. And you know why I was laughing? And when the story came out and I was like, aha. So even the fact that they allowed for the Senate inquiry to just happen to the extent that I would give all the evidence that I had, they just wanted to know how much information
You had.
I had. After that, it was shut down. We had the broad-based government come into play. The vice chair of the committee was changed, and Senator Crystal Asige was put there. And she was given instructions to kill it, and they killed it. So what they did eventually is that they said, if you've been conned and if you've had interactions with any of these fake agencies, why don't you go to the NHIF building or some building somewhere in town and, register yourself. And that was the end of the story. And instructions were given, very strict instructions were given to the chair of the committee and to the vice chair of the committee. You will later see that actually the chair and the vice chair, the chair of the committee is, I forget his name. The vice chair is Crystal Asige. You later see them hanging around with Alfred Mutua. The story dies.
Wow. And the greatest mobilizer.
So even I was learning through the New York Times about this whole other angle. Because at the time, what I was fighting was that there are so many people who are being asked for illegal fees. They are being conned out of a lot of money, and they're actually not going for these jobs. Thousands and thousands of Kenyans who paid 15,000, some who paid 45,000, never ended up anywhere. And then there are few who ended up where they went and later discovered that if they were signing up for a job as a driver or a caregiver or whatever, they didn't end up in those jobs. In fact, they ended up in very weird jobs. And so when I was reading the New York Times and the slave trade and everything, I was like, oh my God.
This is where you were sending people, Gloria.
This is why I was so violently removed and shut down and, all the policemen, taking me down at the Senate premises. Today as I was coming in, the nominated Senator Tabitha walked in and I'm like, man, I'm grown because these are some of the people who also were they were being sent to make sure that I was hounded and removed, and they pushed the processes within parliament till today. So I was looking at her and I said, and I was like, I'm at peace because I can sleep at night knowing that I didn't send Kenyans to be killed. I didn't con Kenyans.
Right.
I'm not fraternizing with the enemy, and I am not part of this scam of a government.
But you know what you're saying, Gloria? You're essentially saying that, this is interesting because just 2 weeks ago, the president did sit down again, of course, with another professional, James Bays, and he said that 430,000 jobs have been created for Kenyans within the country, outside the country. But then if we do a link, as we're often taught to do, between that and what we see, essentially what we are saying is that out of that number, that there are very many a Kenyan who have gone, and for some reason, Saudi Arabia keeps showing up on the radar here, that they're getting into these jobs. On paper, it looks like one thing, but in reality, it is something else. There are women who are being sexually abused.
First of all,
there are inhumane treatment that's happening. Some of them come back in a box.
Your statement needs to be corrected because I need to tell you that the president, William Ruto, he's a liar. He's like, take it from me. Take it from me. Sometimes I listen now to some of the things that he says. I'm like, but you're lying. The other day, he said that his cabinet secretary and his PSs and his team at the ICT ministry went ahead and rushed to get us into some form of partnership to get into the data center industry. And, they didn't do their proper research to find out that, we don't have capacity in terms of power and downtime. And I was like, but you are lying. You are a liar. I have had a one-on-one conversation with you when I was just sworn in, and I was trying to get to be a chair of the ICT committee, and I told you that, in fact, specifically, that we need to bring the data center industry to Kenya. And then I said, but we need to work on two things. We don't have capacity on electricity, and we need to understand the whole economics of substations. So when I heard him say that, I'm like, but you are lying. You're feigning ignorance. And that is such a lie. So all these things that he said, in fact, nowadays I look and I'm like, you are a liar.
But Gloria,
you are lying. You are lying about the jobs.
Yes.
You are lying. By the way, the other day he went to Saudi Arabia and he carried the Senate Labour Committee to legitimize his actions. So the Senate Labour Committee, my colleagues, I was seeing them there taking selfies and posting photos on, and I know how much it costs to take a committee to a place. They use over 10 million for sure. And then they came back and said that they've signed a good agreement and Kenyans are going to be protected, they're going to be paid well. I'm like, but you guys are lying. You guys are actually lying. And you guys, the Senate committee, was carried to legitimize a private business that was being discussed. And it has nothing to do with the oversight of the executive. If anything, it is about rubber stamping and endorsing lies.
Looking at the labor export, because that's the crux of the matter. Kenyans have the right to fetch for greener pastures. Kenyans have a right to travel and work elsewhere because, it also builds the economy. We don't have enough jobs. We don't have enough economic activities happening. But the sad bit is that as Kenyans have done that, it turns out that the foreign exchange earner is now the labor export. I think the sad bit is that now the president himself and his family, so to say, are being now mentioned to be part of that whole system. But again, I've had the same president say that they were able to weed out almost 500 rogue agencies.
Wow.
You've had the same.
Ask me about that. When we sat in the Senate, when Alfred Mutua came and said, I'm going to be removed from office, it's because I demanded to see the list of these rogue agencies whose licenses have been declined. Because while he was sitting there saying that they have actually declined licenses for rogue agencies, the guy sitting behind him was rogue agent 001.
Wow.
Who they work together. So
know.
if you ask me, the only thing, because they can't give you a list of these rogue agencies, and every time you ask for it, there's always a story.
Why
back
not?
and forth.
Yes.
Because the whole idea is to monopolize the system. Is to make sure if this agency XYZ is doing a good job, making sure it's safeguarding Kenyans, making sure that it's negotiating good rates for Kenyans, is to make sure this person who's blocking us from doing business is removed so that us, we can sell Kenyans. And when I say us, I'm talking about what New York Times has listed, not me. Me, I did not say the president is involved in this. It is New York Times that they've done an investigative feature. And it's basically they want to monopolize the space.
I want to hold on to that for a minute, Gloria, because you talk about the fact that this last, I don't know if it was benchmarking or signing of an agreement, whereby we've seen that, I think the amount now that Kenyans would be earning, Saudi Arabia was another country, 34,000 and some odd shillings was the basic. At least you will not earn less than that if you are leaving the country, which
it
many
has always
questions,
been.
Right? So it seems as though it's a landmark thing that
It is
they've
not a
arrived at.
landmark. It has always been.
However, Senator Thangwa was mentioned in this story, and he seemed to have been very surprised that these are some of the things that were going on. Number one, that Kenyans are being mistreated so badly in some of these work conditions, and that they are a woman who, according to her family in Kenya, is living on the street because she's been kicked out for whatever the reason may be. But that shouldn't be the situation. He seemed very surprised. And then also even more surprised that some of these agencies are linked. I mean, come on, Gloria, you must know that some of these agencies are linked to top government officials. They own them. Not that they have people, they own them. The agencies are theirs. How does this work?
You need to
and how do you
understand.
separate
You need
the
to
two?
understand. For a proper parliamentary inquiry, either the National Assembly or the Senate,
Right.
for an inquiry to come to conclusion, a report has to be tabled. And when I started the Senate inquiry at the Labour Committee about this whole situation, there was panic because these are some of the things that would have been highlighted, that the owners of these agencies are in fact government officials. And now that New York Times has also shown us, it's the first family led by the president and the daughter. And at the end of the day, if you look at the inquiry that I started, we only did 2 days of the inquiry, after which the clerk of the Senate, together with all powers that bid, you could literally see the machinery of them shutting down that inquiry. At one point, we had witnesses who had been called in to come and give their testimonies as to who conned them, how. They even had the evidence. That sitting was cancelled by the clerk of the Senate. And every single time now I look back and think about it, I realize what they wanted to find out is how much does she know? And then once you know how much she knows, shut it down. Because if you continue, you see, obviously the witnesses would come, they would talk about it. We had 2 witnesses. There was a gentleman who came and said that, in fact, he has just been rescued from, I don't know whether that is Vietnam, I don't know even which country. So they were afraid that there'd be more witnesses coming in and this thing will become bigger than what it is. And eventually, probably we would have landed where the New York Times landed to find out that, in fact, it is a state-led, massacre.
Okay, so let
me
clear.
tell you.
I just wanted to be clear on one thing here, is that this company that's allegedly involved here is not that it is an agency said to be owned by the president and his daughter, but that an agency that provides insurance for the labor export agencies. You get what I mean? So that company is what is said to be owned by the president and his daughter.
It doesn't matter which company it is. And in fact, today I'm not here to discuss New York Times. What matters is that even your name as a state officer
Featuring there.
is featuring there. You know? It doesn't matter if it's featuring there about you provided insurance, that you even were the ones selling the tickets to fly to Saudi Arabia. Conflict of interest is right there. And also then it now begs the question, why the hell was that inquiry shut down? Because you see, if your name never featured there, if the name of the president never featured there, or his daughter, or the first lady, or anyone, or any state official, the minister, you know, today we would be talking about how we need to get to the bottom of this and these people must be arrested and how these people must be brought to book. But because we all know what happens when you blow the whistle with this administration, you see, there's a very loud silence. In fact, Kenyans have been calling me, those who knew what was happening when I was being hounded from office, they've been calling me and telling me, you know, you've been vindicated. And you know, for us, we are just waiting because we hope that the next government that comes in will hold these people accountable. Alfred Mutua needs to go to jail straight. He needs to go to committee. All these people who've killed Kenyans, because they've killed Kenyans. You know, we are not just talking about sending people to Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Women are dying in Saudi Arabia.
And others removed. They are held in Russia.
There are people who are stuck out there.
Contractual misrepresentation.
And these crimes, they don't have an expiry date. It should not be that, oh, you know, that hiyo kitu ilikuwa ya last. These people should be held accountable. If there's one thing that I want to champion and that is driving me to go back as an elected leader to parliament, is that these people must be held accountable for every single thing that they've done, for the women they've killed, for the lives that have been lost, for all that money that they have actually literally squandered, stolen through all these corrupt dealings. We in 2027, 2028, maximum 2028 May, committee should be hot with all these people.
As the inquiry was shaping up, were you privy to the proxies? To the proxy?
I didn't know all of this. When I read this, I'm telling you, Abdi of New York Times sat down with me in May, a few weeks before I was taken out. And he, even when I called him, he said, I remember that MP who came and said, this is the last lunch you're going to have here. Continue doing what you're doing. So these people knew. All these people know because they are all in it. They are all doing business. That's why they will defend this government to the grave, because they are part of the murder. They are part of the stealing. All these nominated senators who are walking around here trying to defend the murder, the deaths of people in Saudi Arabia, to defend all this corruption. They are part and parcel of it. They have eaten the blood money, and that they are tied. That's why they can't speak up. Because, once you have eaten that money, utaongea ukiwa pande gani?
Well, but then the president tells you as a Kenyan, as a job-seeking Kenyan, that if you get a contract outside, we have negotiated with Germany, for example, because that was very popular at some point. If you land a contract, we are even going to pay for a passport for you to be out within 48 hours. We are going to facilitate your travel. And then it turns out that the same government, because the president speaks as the government, he doesn't speak just as an individual. Then the government itself comes out that it is the one that is running this racketeering scheme. Then where do Kenyans seek refuge? Especially now coming from a parliamentary position. What should Kenyans do?
First of all, Parliament is completely compromised. I've told you. I just walked in with one of my colleagues here coming to defend the murder and the theft of this organization because our hands are dirty.
Right.
And this is the stress that the Gen Z had. Because they were like, where are we going to cry? Tutenda kulilia wapi? Kitambo, we used to go to our members of parliament. They would do inquiries. They would call the people. There would be some level of, checks and balances. But now there isn't. Because every single place that a Kenyan should go and be able to seek refuge and say, this is happening to me, has been compromised. Every single institution has been broken down. Look at what EACC is being used to do.
Yeah.
Just now I've heard the news when you're talking about Governor Nyaribo from Nyamira being impeached. Yes, I'm not saying that man is innocent. That man is not innocent. I'm not saying he has not done any wrong things. But if you look at the timings of how these processes are being used, let me say, used as a tool, that if you don't want to play ball with us, I can tell you outright, and not because I support Governor Nyaribo for anything. He needs to be held accountable for all the funds that might have been lost under his watch and whatnot. But the reason they're removing him is not because of that. They're removing him because they've realized today the Star newspaper has the numbers at the front page, and you can see the battleground and whatever. So of course, Star newspaper is not always right, but you can see what is going on there. They're removing him because the deputy governor of Nyamira happens to be UDA. Let me say, happens to be an agent of this rogue government. And so they've realized that Kisii is really, even the 10% they thought they would have, they're not going to get it. So they've realized they must impeach. This Nyaribo guy has refused to play ball with government. Unlike our Kisii County governor, who has outrightly gone to join the government, and that is where me and him parted ways. But the Nyamira governor said, no, he cannot. He's not going to be part of this rogue regime. So they're impeaching him because they need to put in their person. It's all about private businesses, theft. Even the change, you've seen, we're looking for, we need to get a new currency, a 5,000 Kenya shilling note. That's because these State House boys, they've been carrying money. It's becoming impossible to carry money. Those kilos are too many now. They want to compress it to a 5,000 shilling so that they can reduce the kilos. They are stealing money left, right, and center. It has to be stolen in cash to be taken to wherever it's taken. It's proving to be a logistical nightmare to carry these thousands of Kenya shillings around. So now they want to get a 5,000 Kenya shilling note so that they can steal properly ahead of the 2027 election. There's nothing you see in this newspaper is about what you see. It boils down to the money that is being stolen by, let me call this gang. It's a gang.
Yes.
But you know what worries me?
It is a gang that is led by the head of state.
What worries me, though, is that the people who, it sounds almost, it's moronical.
We're in trouble.
Here we are, and that there are people who are within this circus, and they are the representatives of the people. They see this, by your own admission, are part of this, but continue to perpetuate this condition that, if anything, hurts the people of Kenya as opposed to helping them. So it becomes a contest among just a chosen few who will ensure that they remain in power and they sacrifice the people of Kenya on the altar of their own ambition.
That is what is happening.
And people in governance today representing the people are okay with that.
Not only are they okay, they will die defending their thuggery and the murders.
So let me ask, we have international labor laws. especially when you have like a government-to-government agreement that you can
We didn't have government-to-government agreements, by the way.
But it was mentioned by the president.
Alfred Mutua sat
And
in
the
the
CS.
Senate committee,
Right.
and when I asked about the government-to-government agreement, there are processes and procedures when it's G2G,
Yes.
and he is on record admitting that the things he went to do in Germany, the things he went to do in Saudi Arabia,
Right.
are actually not government-to-government. He said he went there
Right.
to talk on behalf of the businessmen, to make sure that the business that is being done between that country and Kenya is fair game.
But that's not what they reported
That
to Kenyans.
he is on record.
Right,
There
okay.
is a whole. He, in fact, I remember raising the Citizen TV and all those other media houses
Yes.
were in shock.
Yeah.
He said, "No, it is not a government to government," and that explains what is happening. He went to broker deals for businessmen.
For businessmen. Now, which he shouldn't.
A government to government. First of all, a government to government arrangement.
Yes.
Will then define even the procedures within how you take that laborer
Yeah.
all the way to there. For instance, a government-to-government agreement between, let's say, us and Germany or Saudi, why the hell would you be asking people to pay a medical fee? And if they're paying a medical fee, why don't you send them to Kenyatta or a government
Facility.
institution?
Yes.
Instead, it is government. It is private hospitals that have also again partnered through the ministry to make money. If it's a G2G arrangement again, why the hell would you be saying we are removing money from Uwezo Fund to buy tickets for
To send-
and the tickets are not that money from Uwezo Fund or from this fund that they are removing is not being sent direct to the airline. It's being sent
Agent.
to the agent. So this is supposed to be money to buy a ticket for someone to go to Saudi or Germany. But instead of it being sent to an airline, it is being sent to an agent. The agent removes their percentage, the agent makes their profit, and the agent maybe buys a ticket. But all that money, in fact, if you go to Kisii, there are over 100 and something people who took the loans. They are now being charged payback. They have to now start paying the monthly. And they're not working.
And they've never gone anywhere.
They've never gone anywhere. And guess what? That money was already deducted and sent to the agent.
For what?
So it was put in their bank account.
Yeah.
And then they were instructed to send it to the agent. So that the agent can apparently buy and purchase visa, what. Those people are still in Nyamira.
Okay, hang on. But
They're-
okay,
and
if
they're
you pay
going
an
nowhere.
agent today to help you do certain things, get your visa, get your ticket, get your travel insurance, whatever, at some point there will be movement. Somebody will
Exactly.
say, you filled a form, something, you've made a payment.
Oh, don't get
here
me.
is
You know,
a re-
when you
here is a
talk about it,
receipt
I'm
for
getting traumatized
$11.
because the procedure, they know how to scam you, so they keep you busy for 6 months plus. You're just thinking you're applying, you're sending, or you didn't send the right one, the photo you sent is not PDF, send it to PDF. 6 months back and forth to a year. By the time I was asking for the inquiry, we were past 6 months.
From the Ministry of Labour.
Yes. I'm telling you this. I have gotten in a lot of trouble because of this. I was violently removed because of this. And I am telling you that we need God to come down and save this country. Because I've told you, there is a gang
At one,
led by the head of state.
the cabal.
It is about looting.
Yeah.
It is about making money. It is about the State House boys. And it has nothing to do with the interests of Kenyans.
At one time, Gloria, the president himself went to a church. I think it was in Roysambu or Kasarani somewhere. And him and that church and the bishop, and they agreed they're going to host recruitment of so many youth.
And you
And
remember they even brought pay bill numbers?
Yes.
And Alfred Mutua sat there.
Yes.
And people started paying. And you remember he sat there for almost an hour.
Indeed.
You know, if I'm lying, I want you to go back to that church and ask for the number of people who traveled. You know, the thing that really annoys me
Right.
about this government is some things you don't need to argue with Oroba. Who the hell is Oroba? Who is she? She's lying. Just post in this daily newspaper the 430,000 Kenyans who have gone. Just put the names the way we write the names when
Yeah.
people are
Okay,
recruited at
yeah.
KDF. See, we put
Yes,
names.
yes.
See, we publicize and we
Right.
say, and then you can see Nani from here and just put the names. He can't. The Senate inquiry asked him, bring the names of the people who have traveled. Because you're saying this thing is not a scam. To date, that is why they changed the leadership, put Crystal Asige in there, shut down that thing. And to date, if your conscience is clear, by the time you are shutting down that inquiry, don't you think at the bare minimum you owe Kenyans a list of the people who have benefited from these diaspora jobs. To date, there's no list. To date, they cannot tell you how many Kenyans have gone. Because the truth of the matter is that whatever was being done through government was just a form of public relation and to showcase that they're doing something about, jobs and whatever. And then beneath the surface, there's this whole other, let me say, black market where Kenyans are actually being sold to slavery, which I was also reading about, which the moment that thing came out, there are women who are sending SOSs. They thought they were going to be nannies and housekeepers. They are now sex slaves in Saudi.
And what are their options now? Because the damage has been done, as you rightly put it. Women are suffering, but I mean both men and women. We have men stranded in war zones because they left here thinking they're going to be security agents.
And they don't care. Nobody cares about them.
So what are the options of our fellow Kenyans?
What do we do? Let me ask you, what do we do? The only thing that I can do, because in my position, my hands are tied.
Yes.
By the way, I was taken to court by Alfred Mutua and we are still having a court case. I was sued for all sorts of things. They have hounded me down. They have done all sorts of... Parliamentary Service Commission, contrary to the law, has held on to all my benefits and my money. They are, behind the scenes, the thing that I'm dealing with. Let me tell you something. What are our options? The only thing that I can do is that I speak. I have a voice. I speak. I tell people, don't dare. Alfred Mutua in another 2 weeks will post vacancy, 1,000 drivers needed in Saudi Arabia. People will still go and give him money. People will still go and register. What can we do as Kenyans? Honestly speaking, I'm not trying to sell despair, but I'm trying to say this. We're in a situation where we are being led by thugs, liars, murderers, and rapists.
That's some serious stuff that you're saying, Gloria.
Yeah. That's what we're being led with. These are people, this is the reality. And in this reality, you must ask yourself as a Kenyan, because now you are aware, we are being led by thugs, liars, rapists, and conmen. Are you going to treat them the same way you treat normal leaders who care about you? No, you will not. You must treat them with aggression. You must not fall into the traps of tumenda kanisa tunaomba. These people are not men of God. These people are, in fact, God has left them. If any time, I want to tell Kenyans to go back and read the 7 books that were omitted from the Bible, where they talk about the spirits in human bodies. Those are the people that are leading you. Evil manifestation in human bodies who are out for your blood, to kill you, to murder you, to rape you. And so you cannot treat that person as if they're a leader. When you see them, treat them like you would treat the devil.
The argument that may hold some water, Gloria, is that if you had not been treated, or if you had not met the condition that you did, then being removed from Senate and all of this, that you would not be speaking in this manner.
But I was here. I was here when I was a senator. When I was I'm still a senator, legally. I was in this studio before even the Senate inquiry. By the way, the Kenyans don't know a lot of things. There are so many things that I refuse to participate in that they tagged me as a problematic
Senator
person. This person should not be in our team. They're problematic. She has refused to close her eyes in the committees. She keeps hounding our ministers and cabinet secretaries over things. The cabinet secretaries will go and report me to the president. Tell that senator of yours to stop asking us things. There are so many things I have refused to participate. Some I cannot even talk and engage in. Some I can't. I have totally refused. I keep asking people, I need you to go and check if I have ever traveled with the president to anywhere. If I've ever entered any of his choppers. I refused. Because I know goddamn well what happens. And I just refused a lot of things. I was like, because I know what happens in that space, why would I put myself in that space? I refused to play ball in the committees. I refused to keep quiet and put my head down. I refused to just be silent when a lot of things were happening in the floor of the House. I opposed the majority leader more than anyone in that House. That's something that you should not do. For your majority leader, when they propose a motion or whatever, you should always support them. Go and check them on record. I've opposed them. It's just that people choose not to see that. I refused repeatedly When people were being called and told we have to go and sell this narrative for affordable houses. You know, the first week I went on TV and talked about affordable houses and the good that it's doing in terms of jobs.
You did?
And then I went back and I asked, okay, that's good. We are creating jobs. But why the hell are you asking people to buy the houses? And these houses have already been bought by the people. I asked it in State House at a parliamentary group meeting. And my colleagues were just saying, you are playing with fire. You are playing with fire. I have been so consistent in pushing back on so many evil things, some that people Kenyans cannot see, to the point that they said we are tired.
Of you?
Yeah.
So
we are tired the labor, this labor thing.
Yeah.
Because the labor thing, I got a phone call from one of the CSs, who is now not a CS, from Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
And he told me, don't touch that. He told me, Roba, wachana na hiyo kitu. Nimekwambia wachane nayo. I said, watu wangu wamekoniwa. He said, nimekwambia wachane na hiyo kitu, itakuingiza kwa shida. So I got a call from a PS.
Right.
Who is giving money to these people.
To travel.
To tell me, don't, we are dealing with ABCD. And the funny thing is that this PS, other than this job as the permanent secretary, this PS has never had another job before this one. And that's why this person was chosen to be put there, because there's nothing, they have no experience in anything beyond this position. I got phone calls to the extent of someone in that family telling me to stop.
So you stood on principle.
I stood on business, I stood on principle.
You exhibited good leadership.
And it cost,
one would argue.
And it cost me.
And then it lands you in this predicament. So what does it say about your colleagues who are still serving, who are still silent? Because this is not the only rogue
my
operation
issue is not even, my issue is not so much with the ones who are silent.
Yeah.
My issue is with the people who actually go out of their way to defend
the
rogueness. You see, being silent is maybe their way of dealing with it. Which I still say, if you're silent, you are encouraging the perpetrator.
Right, correct.
But my issue is not so much with the silent ones. My issue is the ones, like I've told you, my colleague was here. She's going to studio to defend the murder and the crimes of this government. And I look at them and I say, I really have a problem with it. I wish you would just be quiet and go to a corner. But
then
you know,
come out and defend.
Yeah. They are defending. They have been, and I know that I sound, people keep telling me heal. I don't want to heal. Why should I heal? I want to channel this.
Yeah.
I want to channel this to the actions that I want to take so that I go back to that parliament and do the things that we need to do.
Earlier on you mentioned now you want to seek fresh mandate so you can come back. Are you going to Mombasa? You could talk about that.
I'm vying. I'm going to be in parliament. And the best case scenario is that I go back to the Senate as an elected senator. That would be the best case scenario. But I will be in parliament. And that you can take from me. I'll be in parliament. I'm vying. And let me tell you something. I do believe that, when all is said and done and we go to wherever we put up, we go to our homes. Yeah? And you think that these things you're doing is because, after 5 years, after all, I'll be done. So I got to make the money that I need to make now and then move on. I don't think anyone in this administration is going to have peace. Because sincerely, the same God that put William Ruto in that office will brutally remove him there. That same God. That same God that we served and we said, this guy, he has so much plans for this country. And we went down on our knees, me being one of them, and prayed and said, please allow for this guy to go to office. That same God will brutally remove William Ruto from that office. And all the gangs around him that have stolen, murdered, and raped the Kenyan people.
Those people are they are the larger group from which this group of people comes from that hope to get jobs. I believe that there are some people in this Kazi Maju program who go get a job and they're able to fend for it somehow. But one bad story where somebody has been mistreated, the terrible story where somebody came back in a box, terrible stories of how people are sexually abused when they think that they're going to do a domestic job. Those are too many stories for the program to be successful.
And the
thing
successful,
is it a program that is working and successful
One
today?
thing you have to realize, before Kazi Maju came, Kenyans through agents were still going out.
Yes, they were.
And they were successfully getting jobs, real jobs. And that never stopped. So even the successful people have not gone through the Kazi Maju program. They've just gone through whatever used to
Finding
happen
their
before.
way.
Yeah. They've paid exorbitant amounts of fees, 300,000 plus, and they've made it. But I challenge the Ministry of Labor, and I challenge our president, who I have come to learn and really understand that he is a pathological liar. I challenge him. Just bring the names. You see, in my family and my extended family, we are at least maybe 100 and something people in the age bracket of 45 and below. If I tell you that my family, 60% of my family has benefited from this program, I should at least be able to give you a list of the 60 or 50%.
You would know somebody. You would know.
I would know someone. And that person should at least be able to come and not be trained and just say, listen, look, me, I came. You can see my picture here in the church. Me, I paid. You can see the pay bill that I paid here. And then me, I waited 6 months. Eventually, I went. You can see I went. These are the photos. And now I am telling you, I work here as a mason or whatever, and I'm happy and I'm earning this much. Is it so difficult to get those kind of success stories? So who are these 430,000 happy people who have successfully gotten jobs out there?
So let's go to the original idea of labor export. My imagination tells me it was meant to come in and try, one, lower the cost of travel or seeking jobs.
Yes.
Make it easy and credible for Kenyans to find contracts that are binding, that what you sign for is what you get. Right? And then, the terms are agreeable to both our country, you as a person, and the employer. So at what point did this change? Because the private agencies, as you say, have been taking
They've been taking people, and they're still taking people.
And they're still doing it.
And by the way, if you talk to private agencies and you go and tell them, oh, mimi sitakuja nilipe your 300,000 enda kulipa ya serikali, they laugh. They laugh because they know you're going nowhere.
Yes.
And you will come back to them. You see, what I would imagine this program was supposed to do, especially if as a labor minister you're going to negotiate, I would imagine at a very basic understanding that I would go and sit down with these people and say, okay, in order for you who wants to get a foreigner to come and work in your house, first of all, you have to put a down payment of their visa and their flight. That is something you can negotiate on G2G.
Yeah.
So that burden of the employee having to cater for their flight is taken away, right? Then if you have that en masse, what happens is you truly have reduced the cost of traveling, because now the Kenyan government, the only thing they would say is, on our end, we would make sure that we are sending you healthy people. And then we would enroll with level 4, level 5 hospitals to do the standard. There would be a standard test.
Medical test, yes.
That if you pass these tests in a government institution, then you just bring that slip from eCitizen, and then it is taken to the employer, and the employer is ready for you. They purchase your ticket, you go.
Yeah.
A G2G is supposed to make the arrangement easier. And by the way, on top of that, then I don't need to pay any fees to any agent. I need to just pay eCitizen and book my test. And then all that process of making sure that medically whatever is covered under our government hospitals. That's the one thing, basic understanding of what I could do as a labor minister. And then if I'm going to Saudi Arabia, I'll tell them another thing, you people are killing our people. So what we expect you to do also, if you are
stop killing them.
is to put here money for insurance. Because another thing we've understood is that when our people are getting sick, you are refusing to take them to hospital. Yeah. So you put money for the flight, you put money for the insurance, and also we want you to put a guarantee that in the event something suspicious happens, and even we need to repatriate this person back, we are going to spend this money on that process. Or even if, by God forbid, the person dies, we are going to, this is how we recover. And then I would imagine that because we are exporting so much laborers to the UAE, I would beef up my embassy and have
It doesn't seem
places.
something so difficult to put in place.
Well, until you have Karen Nyamu traveling to Saudi Arabia to do a Senate inquiry. And then, that answers you. But my point is, because the first trip that went to do the Senate inquiry was led by these people. It's not rocket science. It is not rocket science. And then another thing that I would do is that I would make sure, because the embassy is probably in one central place and there are workers everywhere, just have,
Consulates.
Yeah, consulates around the place, because we're understanding now we are doing business in this country and we need to safeguard our people. It's called stopgap measures. Just put them in place.
Sounds like what a good government would want to do.
It sounds like what any leader should do. And then another thing is, we have a training facility that is supposed to familiarize Kenyans here and prepare them to go to Saudi Arabia, understand the Islamic laws, what the do's and the don'ts. The initial process was going to take 6 months to a year or something.
Yeah.
This government went and shortened it.
3 months.
Yeah, because they're like, muna waste time. Because they don't really care if you're going to die or whatever. For them, it's like, please, we need to churn you out very quickly, because they're the ones who own the agencies. So they shortened the period of training. Why? Make it so difficult for someone to be able to take a caregiver, a nurse, a housekeeper, and turn them into a
slave.
Yeah, because now uko na mikakati umeweka. Instead, our government is shortening the process, bringing in cartels to do medical tests and whatever. So there is no intent of this government to actually safeguard the people of Kenya. The intent of this government is to make money for their own. These state officials, they have to make their own money. And they understand, especially now more than ever, that they are not coming in for a second term. So the hastiness at which things are being done is literally, if you are walking in to steal and you realize, as opposed to having 2 minutes, you now have 30 seconds. You are in a rush to steal everything on the table.
Well,
Wow.
how about opening eyes to certain realities that could be the order of the day? And very many things are clear and many things are true. Gloria, thank you for being here this morning.
Yeah, and thank you. And I want to wish the contestants for the by-elections our very best. You've seen what's happening in Bere and everything.
Yeah.
And I want to tell Kenyans not to lose hope. Let them not lose hope. Yeah, let them not lose hope, because there are a few of us who understand the kind of people we are dealing with, and we have not lost hope.
Yeah.
We are regrouping and re-strategizing on how we are going to save this country from, this gang.
And all the best to you. Come here from your beat to come 2027.
Thank you.
Indeed, and a good note to end on this morning, and for us to continue having these conversations, because it's important. It's only when in the dark and covered up that evil thrives. Asante sana. A minute past 1. Good morning. Past 9 rather. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.